Alright, so in this video, I'm going to talk about victim mentality and how you're going to destroy it so you can become the best version of yourself, alright? And my name is Jeffrey. I'm an online fitness coach, and also an active duty soldier here in the U.S. Army. I posted a video a few weeks ago, and it kind of blew up. I was talking about gratitude and this and that, my experiences joining the army. And obviously I'm very brand new. I'm not a combat veteran. I'm not some war hero, war master, and all these guys that probably have a lot more experience than me took that video out of context. They said like I was kind of entitled. I'm like this brand new officer that has these privileges to cook his own food, this and that, and it sounded like I was complaining this and that in the video, and they're just straight up hating on me. My intent with the video is to share my experiences, which obviously differs from a 10-year veteran or someone that has like a totally different history in life. But yeah, I just shared my experience, and people were hating on me, this and that. And you know what it made me realize, though? It made me realize that like most people in this world have victim mentality, right? Like when you look around, you're at work. When you look around, you're in your life, right? What do you see all the time? People complaining, right? People bitching, people making excuses. And I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means. I used to be that fucking guy. I used to be that guy that did all this shit I'm talking about right now. I used to hate on people. I used to, have these thoughts of jealousy, envy, that this person was luckier than me. He was born richer. He was born with better genetics. More opportunities. In a better neighborhood. That he had these advantages that I didn't have. And I'll always like think this in my head, right? And that shit is so fucking dangerous. And most people don't realize that they're even doing this. It happens unconsciously, subconsciously. But this kind of thinking will always keep you small, keep you in scarcity mindset. Which is thinking that this is all you got. That you can't fucking expand. It's like when people who are broke, they have scarcity mindset when it comes to money, because they think that money is hard to make. They think they gotta be careful. They can't overspend. You gotta pinch pennies and live small, live like a fucking loser. Like if you live like that, that's what you're gonna attract. You're gonna attract a lifestyle that reinforces that shit. But if you start thinking the exact opposite, that money is abundant, opportunities are out there, that anything's fucking possible, because it is. If you bust your ass, then that's your reality too. And when it comes back to victim mentality, right? A lot of people have problems in life. A lot of people are in positions or in situations where things do suck ass. You might be maybe financial problems, family problems. Rough upbringing problems, trauma, whatever the hell is going on. Yeah, sometimes life sucks. Sometimes people are dealt a shittier hand than other people. Life is not fair. That's kind of a thing. You were born a human, and some other organism out there was born a cow, and now you eat the cow. All right. Like sometimes things are not fair across the board. All right. That's life. All right. But when it comes to to your life and destroying victim mentality, though, right? Like if you always complain, you always bitch, you always say that you're not here or there or where you want to be or whatever, because of this other person, this other thing, the government, your parents, you always blame something but yourself. Then you always give that other thing the power to control your happiness, your success, and your situation in life. You're always giving that thing the power. I'm not happy because my boss did this to me. You give your boss the power. I'm fat because I don't have time. Well, you give your excuses the power. I'm broke because the government didn't give me the fucking stipend or some shit. Like all these things give power away to external forces. All right, that these external forces probably don't give a fuck about you. To be honest, they don't give a fuck about you more than than you do, than you should. And that's where you should fucking put the blame. You should put the blame on yourself, all right? If you're in a shitty position in your life, you're fat, you're out of shape, you feel like shit, you're broke, your fucking marriage is falling apart, you have no girlfriend, you can't even get laid, you got cheated on, whatever the hell is going on, right? Like, I'm not saying I know everything in life, but I know this for sure. All right, I know victim mentality. If you destroy this sickness, then you'll fucking become a different man. All right, you'll become a man that you respect, that you could only have dreamed of existing. Okay, because if you accept every single thing in your life, whether good or bad, as your fault, then you give yourself the power back to control what happens next. Okay, like, yeah, man, like, yeah, your life sucks ass, you're broke, you're whatever is going on, accept that it's your fucking fault. All right, everything that you have done, everything like the position you are right now is the result of every past action that has happened to you, or that you did, take responsibility for it. All right, because then you're going to give yourself the power to fix it. All right, like, if you are the problem, you are also the solution. Okay, like, this thing, the next page is not up to fate, it's not up to the stars, to the astrology, the government, your mom, your dad, your fucking auntie, your friends, like what society thinks. Is up to you, man. It's up to you and what you decide next and what you think is possible. Right, if you think that you deserve better, then prove it to yourself. Go out and make it happen. All right, go out and get that job you want. Go to fucking college if that's what you want to do. Start that business. Get fucking ripped, dude, if you want. Lose that fucking weight. All right, hit me up, I'm a fucking coach. All right, like fucking like if you want something in life, don't expect a handout, because that's not gonna happen. Even if it did happen, even if some fucking stranger or life just threw in your fucking lap exactly what you wanted, like you wanted a fucking, you wanted a Lamborghini, boom, someone gave you a Lamborghini. You might enjoy it for like a few weeks, for a short period of time, but afterwards, like it's gonna get old, right? Because these things, the Lamborghini, fucking a ripped body, a hot girlfriend, a happy, successful life on paper. These things don't matter as much as the man you are. Okay, that's what matters. All right. If you give a broke person money, all right, he's just gonna fucking spend it on bullshit, and he's gonna be broke again in like a fucking week, because he is not the man that deserves that money, that has earned that money. Okay, it's just like fitness, right? If you, like, a fat guy, right, he fucking was lazy as fuck, had no discipline, never tracked his food, never worked out consistently, had shitty sleep, all these bad habits, which was the reason why he's fat in the first place, right? If he just fucking, went to a doctor, did liposuction, removed his fat, he might have lost a fuck ton of weight, looked normal for like a little bit, but then his bad habits are going to start kicking back in, because he never developed himself to the man that fucking deserves that success, deserves that result. All right, like, you got to solve the root cause first for the problem, instead of just looking for the fucking, like, the answer. You need to figure out how to solve the fucking equation first. Like, I hated math growing up as a kid, but like, that's like my math analogy. If you want to find out the answer, you like solve the problem. Don't just fucking cheat and get the answer, because like, when you cheat the system, when you cheat the process, right, you're cheating yourself at the end of the day. As cheesy and cliche as that sounds, like, from your teachers telling you this in school, like, you're only cheating yourself. It's really true. When it comes to life, and like, when it comes back to victim mentality and just like, that type of thinking, you're right. Like, it's hard. Sometimes, like, things are not fair. Some other guy might have it, like advantages you don't have. Some guy, like, might be born richer, born prettier, better genetics. Better family, better network, better neighborhood. His daddy might have given him like fucking $10,000 every week or some shit. Like, he could have everything, all the advantages you could think of. All right, who gives a fuck? Does that affect what you can do with your life though? Does that affect your situation? All right, even if you guys are competing in like a similar business, similar game, all right, what does that mean? Right, that means that in order to make up that difference in talent, in privilege, in starting position, you need to bust your ass. You need to work 2 times harder, 3 times, 5 times, 100 fucking times hard. You need to fucking, like, you need to have that hunger that these guys probably don't have, because they they started off with a head start, right? That's why I think that people that are born poor, born in shitty situations, like, it's all about perspective. It's all about how you see it. That can be your greatest superpower. Some of the most successful people in this world, they grew up dirt poor in complete poverty. They grew up in the shittiest countries as far as living standards are concerned, and they use that hunger, that drive to get their family out of that situation to propel them to the heights of success that they eventually achieved. And you see these guys that grew up rich, rich family, everything handed to them, and they just kind of they turn out fucking mediocre. They turn out fucking mediocre. They just kind of coast by. They live an average ass life, and literally nothing stands out about them besides that. Yeah, he comes from a rich family. Like that's literally it, right? You look at this guy, hey man, tell me about yourself. What are you known for? He's like, oh yeah, he's known for growing up in a rich family. That's it. Right? Like, you don't want to be that guy, all right? Like, a lot of people in bad situations, I feel like they only look at the bad. They only see the how hard things are, how unfair life has been to them, and how good it's been to other people. They think that it just, the lottery hasn't picked them or some shit. But you need to pick yourself though, all right? You can't think that it's up to something else but yourself, all right? Like, in this life, in this day and age, you have so many opportunities out there. If you're watching this video right now, all right, you're holding a phone in your hand, a technology that ancient civilization, the kings, the richest motherfuckers back then did not have access to. All right, you're living in a house, all right, with 4 walls and probably a roof or something. That 100 years, 200 years ago, even the richest person probably didn't have this safe of a house to live in. All right, you got to be grateful for every single thing you have in your life, but at the same time you need to be hungry as fuck for more. That if you really be hungry for everything you're willing to work for. All right, this is my core mindset when it comes to fucking life. Gratitude and success, and gratitude and ambition are two sides of the same coin. All right, you need both. All right, I used to grow up very ungrateful, entitled prick, fucking, I didn't grow up super poor or anything. My parents worked very hard. They were middle class, they try to provide me with everything, but like I said, I grew up with a lot of spoiled, a lot of privileges, and I started looking around at people who had more than me with richer families or whatever going on, and I'll be like, man, why didn't I have that luxury? Why didn't I get born in that situation? Why is my why am I not where they are? I thought life owed me something. Life didn't owe me jack shit though. Nobody owes you jack shit. All right, not that girl that rejected you, not that boss that rejected you, not that school that said you weren't good enough, not that coach that cut you from the team. None of these, nobody owes you jack shit. If you want something, you fucking bust your ass and split your fucking body in two to get it, to make it happen, okay? That's the mentality you need to have, all right? At the same time, you need to be grateful for everything you have right now. Even if you think you have nothing, you have something, all right? Look at every struggle as an opportunity to fucking develop mental toughness, to find out what hard work is, all right? So much people live in a comfortable ass life that they actually don't have anything to struggle for. They don't have that thing to drive, to motivate them, to be hungry, because they have everything, which is kind of why I'm in the fucking military, because I grew up in a soft life. I grew up in a lucky, privileged life. I thank my parents every day, for doing the best for me, but it was not pushing me. I knew I needed to be more uncomfortable. I needed to push myself, put myself out there, do something that scared me. And by no means is just I'm David Goggins or anything. I'm not out here fucking saving the world or anything, doing anything nuts. But I always try to push myself every day. Being shirtless on this video talking right now, not something that comes naturally to me. I've grown up, I'm kind of an introvert, kind of like to just do my own thing, but at the same time I know I want to be great. I want to make an impact. I want to help people that feel stuck, feel I want to help a guy that was like me a few years ago who didn't understand this concept that I'm sharing in this video, that always looked around and saw the negative, never saw the positive, never saw the opportunities. and was always waiting, like, when's my chance, when is the good things gonna happen to me, instead of waking the fuck up and realizing like shit is gonna start happening when you start fucking moving, when you start busting your ass, when you start waking up earlier, training harder, setting goals and sticking to them, showing up every day for yourself. Stop making excuses, stop looking at everybody else and start looking within, start looking in the fucking mirror. That's what I would tell myself and anyone who's in that position as I was, like a few years ago. Like, the sooner you realize this, the sooner you drop your ego, the sooner you actually be honest with yourself, and you look yourself in the mirror, sit down in your room by yourself, turn off all the fucking music, the sound, and everything, and just like think. All right, just think about the words that are coming out of my mouth in this video, and ask yourself, like, does any of this fucking make sense? Does any of this, like, like, kind of like, does any of it sound like it could apply? Common sense, right? Like you need to, like, a lot of people are not willing to be honest, or because they have this ego about themselves. They have this mental image that they're this tough guy, they're this fucking badass, in their fucking head, right? But then and they never want that thing to break, because once it breaks, it hurts. It means that the person you thought you were, that you're trying to convince yourself that you were, was not that strong, and that's all right, because like, you cannot be stronger. You cannot level up in life if you think that you're already at the top of you think you're already all that. I used to think that, yeah, I'm the shit. I wasn't the shit. I was fucking broken. I was broke. I was fucking socially awkward and had no chicks. Wasn't in shape or anything like that. I had nothing going, living with my parents, but I thought I was a shit. So I was like, yeah, man, like, I'm the G. Like, I was telling myself this lie in my head to make myself feel better for my lack of progress. But then once I started doing hard things, scary ass things that I knew I needed to do, I needed to train harder, wake up earlier, I started, like, I did this thing called Code Approach, where I'll talk to, like, fucking, like, chicks randomly, and I was scared shitless every time I did this, and I probably still to this day, if I were to do it, like, I would be scared shitless. But all these things, like, I failed up flat on my face, and like, I fucking looked stupid, cringed to myself. I don't know how many times I cringed, but to myself in my room, when I think back to these things. But then guess what? I woke up the next day and I felt stronger, because once you break that weak version of yourself, the strong version finally it can emerge. There's a version of yourself right now in your fucking body, right? He's a fucking badass, all right? He's a fucking G. He's a fucking millionaire. He's a fucking ripped motherfucker. He has conquered all your bad habits that you're dealing with right now. All your problems are his light work, all right? It's just fucking warm up right now, all right? Everything that you're dealing with, that you're scared of, this guy has made light work of, okay? There's a version of you out there that is capable of doing this stuff. He's inside of you, but in order to bring him out, you need to kill the bitch that's fucking, like, holding him in right now. The bitch that's too afraid to fail, to look stupid, to admit things to himself, to be honest, and the one that fucking blames everybody but his fucking self, okay? You need to fucking accept everything, because once you do, you be responsible for all your failures and all your successes, all right? Because at the end of this day, this is your life, and you only got one shot. So pick the life you want to live and make it happen. Do whatever the fuck it takes, and let's fucking go.